My mother has an extremely screwed up way of keeping me and my siblings under her control. My siblings and I were always fighting. I don't know if it was because we were three 18-year-olds stuck under the same roof, but we did not get along. I couldn't wait to get to college. Sitting between my brother and sister, the two of them fighting over the PlayStation, I'd had enough. Mira elbowed me in the face twice, and Daniel threw a banana at my head at dinner. All I did was look at him, and he chose violence. The two of them were a nightmare to deal with. They were either fighting with each other, or fighting me. Mom was upstairs on an important call, so we had to be quiet. "You're pissing me off, now," Daniel grumbled, chin resting on his knees, his gaze glued to the screen. Double jumping on a crate, he catapulted into a run, diving over small ravines carved into the ground and puddles of quicksand. "Get off of me," he yelled, when Mira tried to snatch the controller. The two of them fell into me, grappling for the controller, and I resisted a yell. "Go on bonus," Mira squeaked, and when he ran past it, she shoved him. "Why didn't you go on the bonus level? Look how many apples you're missing." "Dude, let me do the bonus." "They're not apples, and no. Because you take forever." Mira shoved him, again, which in turn shoved me. "They're clearly apples." My brother made an exasperated noise. "Do they look like apples? Have you ever seen an apple that looks like that?" "Yes." Mira threw her phone at me, and it just missed my face. "Teddy, don't they look like apples?" Daniel ignored her, his gaze glued to the screen. "Daniel." She hit him. "Danny." "Hey, Daniel. I will literally throw the fucking controller at your head in a minute." She scoffed. "You wouldn't." He leaned away from her, pulling a face, tightening his grip on the controller. "If you keep distracting me, I will." "Ow. What was that even for?" Daniel straightened up, pausing the game and turning to our sister. "Are you deliberately trying to ruin my turn?" Mira didn't answer, and I groaned into my knees. When he pressed play, she was off again. "Forward. Jump on the—" "Oh, you missed the gem. Again." "I already have the gem." He exploded back. "Well, do the time trial." Daniel's face was getting progressively redder. "I have done the time trial." "Are you blind? Go into that world." "No, that one." "Oh my god, Daniel, you're so annoying. Why can't you let me have a turn?" "Because you're ruining mine." I'm not sure what quiet means to Daniel and Mira, but screaming and shrieking at each other wasn't quiet. "Mom's on the phone," I muttered, nudging my brother with my foot. It wasn't my choice to sit squeezed next to him. Mom insisted on a photo with us together, and neither of us could be bothered moving. But after being kneed in the face twice, I was regretting my decision to stay put. When neither of them answered me, the two of them mesmerized by the stupid game, I cleared my throat. "Mom is on the phone," I repeated. "She said to keep our mouths shut." Daniel scoffed. "So? I'm 18. I can do what I want," he muttered, eyes on the screen. "You're yelling." I straightened up, stretching out my legs. "Don't be a bitch." Mira prodded me. The walls upstairs are literally soundproof. Not in her bedroom. Tired of them both, I jumped up, called them both entitled brats, and slumped into the single-seater near the door. Daniel and Mira exchanged glances, then smirks, before my brother looked me dead in the eye, still slamming buttons. I watched the little character run around in circles. "You do realize you were adopted, right?" he murmured, his gaze flicking to the game. "Mom told us not to tell you, because it'll upset you, but, yeah," he shrugged with a grin. "You're adopted, bro." Mira shoved a cushion in his face, but she was giggling. "That's so mean." She rolled her eyes. "Teddy, don't listen to him." She winked. "You're not adopted." I felt my eyes burn, my throat starting to choke up. I knew they were joking, but it hurt. The two said the same thing when I was 12. It was my birthday, and Daniel was sitting on the counter, his legs swinging. He was sipping the devil's juice, though not so subtly, because he was clearly tipsy. My brother held out his glass in a toast. "Happy birthday, Teddy," he said, gulping down his drink. "You are adopted." He really drew out the "ah" sound. "You're adopted." His words snapped something inside me. I threw my birthday cake in his face, and I was the one sent to my room. Mira told me when we were littles, strapped in the back of Mom's car. "Can I tell you a secret?" she whispered, leaning over to whisper in my ear. I nodded, and Mira giggled. "You're not my brother," she said, with a giant, cheesy grin. I was getting pretty fucking sick of the "lol, you're adopted" joke. I thought they'd grown out of it, but obviously not. It hurt like a bitch, because they had zero remorse. When I burst out crying on my 12th birthday, Daniel just rolled his eyes, muttering, "It's obvious." I looked nothing like Daniel and Mira. They were marginally attractive redheads. I was a mousy brunette with my father's bad eyesight. Mom explained I just looked a lot like our dead father, while the other two resembled our mother. But that didn't stop the awkward stares when I revealed I was related to the two of them. "Wait, really?" my friend said, on the first day of middle school. Daniel slid past me and bopped me on the head, and I called him a fuckface. My friend didn't believe me until I forced my brother to admit it himself. Yes. He had said, with a smirk, bopping me again. This time hard enough to hurt. I am related to this thing. Part of me wished I was adopted. I jumped when a cushion hit me in my face, knocking off my glasses. I hated my brother. It was always target practice with my face, and the sofa cushions were unnecessarily hard. The impact felt more akin to a soccer ball slamming into me. Dude, I'm kidding, Daniel laughed, his attention going back to the game. From what I remembered, I was sitting on the TV remote on my chair. Slipping my hand down the crease, I reached for it, wrapping my hands around it. I felt burning resentment for him. For Mira. And turning off Crash Bandicoot would cause World War III. You're an asshole. I grumbled, playing with the remote. You know I was joking. My brother tipped his head back, his eyes flickering, matching the colors of the screen. You're so fucking gullible. You know it hurts me though. Daniel groaned, slamming buttons on the controller. Teddy, we were joking. Obviously. We love you, man. He shot me a smile that could have been genuine, but I had a feeling it wasn't. Do you want to turn? He offered the controller. Do you think you can beat Cortex? Mira planted her face in a pillow. I thought I was going to do the boss level? Daniel's lip curled. You can't even beat Crunch. That's, like, beginner level. When he held out the controller, I sighed, moving forwards to grab it. Thanks. Before I could take it, though, he held it back. Are you going to tell Mom? I blinked. Then you said I'm adopted? Probably not. Why? Daniel's gaze flicked to the remote in my hand. Before he dived to his feet, his eyes suddenly frightened. I had never seen my brother this scared. His expression seemed to crumble, and he stumbled back. Fuck, he whispered, and behind me, Mira had gone deathly silent. Her eyes were glued to the remote in my hand. What? I held it up. It's just the Apple TV remote. Daniel was paralyzed, his eyes wide. Don't tell Mom. He spoke in a slow, shuddery breath. What? Daniel's hands went into his hair, clawing it out. Don't. His voice came out in a whine. Tell Mom. He was starting to freak me out, a shiver slowly sliding down my spine. It's just a remote. I pointed it at the TV, stabbing off. Daniel's eyes widened. He jumped forwards. Don't. Before freezing in place. I thought they were joking around. But then I waved my hands in front of them. Daniel was completely frozen, mid-jump towards me. When I stepped in front of him, something slimy wound its way up my throat. It wasn't just that he'd stopped, it was that every part of him had stopped. The breath in his lung, eyes unblinking, sweat freezing halfway down his cheek. Poking at my brother's hair, every strand had come to a halt. Mira was the same. Sitting cross-legged, a pillow pressed to her chest, the girl's mouth was parted in a cry. There were tears in her eyes that were not yet formed. Her breath was gone. When I held my hand in front of her nose and mouth, there was nothing. Like she had. My gaze found the remote in my hand. Been switched off. Initially, I dropped the thing, a hiss escaping my lips. But then I found myself on my knees, grasping for it, my heart thudding in my chest. I could hear it, feel it, almost taste it. I was alive and breathing, my heart pumping, my blood running. I lifted my head, staring at my brother. Then Mira, still frozen. I had turned my siblings off. Holding my breath, I dangled the remote in front of me. It definitely wasn't for the TV. There was a strange symbol on the back, a globe inside a heart. United Parents Society. The thing itself was big in my hand, like it was too big. There was a pause button, a stop, a play, and something warm crept up my throat. Before I could stop myself, I was stabbing the rewind button. It was like an impulse reaction. Daniel came to life, before flying back into his original position. I pressed play on him, and he blinked, before his eyes found mine. What did you do? My brother whimpered. How long was I, stabbing the volume down button? I could no longer hear his voice. His eyes widened, narrowing into slits. I could read his lips perfectly. Did you turn me down? You little fucking shit, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to fucking kill you. I didn't realize I'd switched to volume up, my brother's voice slamming into me. I stabbed pause this time, which sent him into a trance-like state. His arms fell to his sides, eyes flickering. When I pressed play, I expected Daniel to start screaming at me. But he didn't. Instead, his lips curved into a cruel smile. Mimi Cartwright, he said in a snort. That's your real mom's name. I found the adoption papers in Mom's office. Daniel folded his arms. Looks like she left you to rot, and my mom took pity on you and brought you into our home. Which is kinda fucking pathetic. I bet your real mom was a crackhead. I didn't realize I was squeezing another button. The home button. I lifted my finger, and Daniel shook his head. Wait, he whispered. I didn't mean that. With my heart falling out of my chest, I pressed it again. I fucking hate you. My brother spat. He straightened up. I hate that I share a room with you, a name with you. I have to tell my friends I'm related to some fucking dumpster baby. He choked on a laugh. If I'm being honest, dude, I kinda wish you'd just fuck off. I don't think I knew I was crying. "Daddy," Daniel hissed, when I pressed play. "Let me explain. You need to understand that he pointed to me, himself, and Mira. We're not supposed to be here." Daniel started towards me, and I staggered back. "Daddy, you have to listen to me," he said. "Just think. How old do you think you are?" Because I'm telling. Pause. I wasn't interested in his excuses. I don't know why I pressed it. My heart ached. I thought I knew my brother. I thought I knew that he was an asshole, but could also be a role model, and a friend. But part of me wanted him gone, just like he wanted me gone. I couldn't make him disappear from the world completely. But I could humiliate him, sending him into a frenzied rewind dance. Stabbing rewind, I pointed the remote at Daniel. Then Mira. Something seemed to jolt in both of them. Daniel did the staggering back dance again, flying back to his position on the couch. It was him was rewinding, not the world around him. I got impatient, waiting for something funny to happen, like to see if Daniel would rewind all the back to dinner. Though it was when I was clicking the button repeatedly, when I started to notice his eyes. Terrified. His lips were pleading with me, and when I looked closer, a single drop of red ran from his nose. Fuck. I dropped the remote. Then I stamped on it, expecting them to stop. No. Their faces began to concave, eyes shrinking. Myra's face getting smaller and smaller, and I realized they were getting younger. Something inhuman clawed its way from my throat. No. I didn't fucking want this. Before I knew what was happening, a 10-year-old Daniel sat in front of me kicking his legs. His eyes were innocent and confused. Then a 5-year-old Daniel. I was holding the remote, screaming at it to stop. My brother was unraveling in front of me, and I couldn't fucking stop it. I dropped into my knees and begged him, sobbing with him that I fucking loved him. Even if he didn't love me, I would do anything, if that meant getting him back. Forward didn't do anything. There was a lock symbol on it. Child lock. Myra's body tipped onto the sofa, a toddler 1 minute, then a baby, and then a fetus coming apart, blood pooling across upholstery. When the remote slipped from my clammy hands, my siblings were gone, not physically, but I was starting to forget. What was my brother's name again? It began with a D. Mira, however, I could still remember. But she's foggy, distant, like she was fading. A banshee screech wailed from upstairs. Mom came hobbling downstairs. Pregnant. But her bump was getting smaller and smaller. I didn't know what to say. I waved the remote. I didn't mean it. Fuck. I didn't mean it. Mom's eyes were wide, terrified, when she grabbed the remote off of me. Before pointing it at me, I felt that switch. That jolt, putting me on pause. Her finger moved to rewind. But this time, forward. Except nothing happened. I saw that in Mom's helpless expression. I saw her realization hit, before it slammed into me. It didn't work on me. Because I was adopted. Mom. I held up my hands, and she was calm. Mom told me to sit down. She got me a glass of orange juice, and when I was sipping it, she reached into her pocket and pulled out another remote. This time it was blue. I remember falling back, knocking the juice on the floor. "I'm sorry, sweetie," she told me, "but I really do enjoy being your mommy." I felt that jolt again, this time in my brain. Like a lightning bolt traveling through me. I felt everything. My own body, my mind, everything, being rewound. My body jerked back and forth, forwards and backwards, in a manic frantic dance. All of my breath was gone. My thoughts, gone. Before I stopped, exhausted, slumped onto the couch. My brother's arm nudged me. It felt familiar. His name was Daniel. His body was rigid against mine. Trembling. Go on bonus. Myra's voice was a lot quieter, more of a whimper. Lifting my head, my bones ached, my breath coming out in sharp pants. "Why didn't you go on the bonus level?" She leaned forward, her voice more of a breath. "Look how many apples you're missing." "They're not apples," Daniel whispered. It sounded like he was trying to remember the argument from earlier. His gaze was on the screen, half-lidded eyes. Maybe I was crazy, but I could have sworn my brother looked younger. I jumped to my feet, my head spinning, but Daniel's arm pinned me down. He was still playing the game, but his eyes kept frantically flicking to the corner of the room. Daniel didn't speak, but he didn't have to. Across the room, Mom was smiling at us. She didn't have a mouth, inky black oblivion stretched wide open. Fuck. I don't remember my mom not having a mouth. What happened to her? What happened to me? On the floor was my spilled orange juice still seeping into the carpet. I went to bed early. I'm under my sheets right now. I don't think Mom can hear me. Please help me. I don't know what to do. How can my mother rewind me if I'm adopted? But I don't think I'm the only one who's adopted.